Hi, it's Gina. Welcome to the Library Mouse. Today we are going to talk about my January wrap-up, February TBR, a little bit of what I'm thinking for my personal curriculum, thanks to MariAndrea and Suey, who sparked this interest, and probably just a little bit of what's going on in my life. So if you think that you might enjoy it, stick around. Okay, first thing is Hattie and I are getting out and about. We need to be out, there she is, in the fresh air. January and February so far have been hard months. And there's going to be, I'm going to talk about something, it might be a trigger, so I'm going to warn you ahead of time so you can skip it. But yeah, it's been hard. So, coloring in here is very odd. Let's go ahead, we're going to go up to the park and take a walk, and I'll chat on the way. Okay, so here's the trigger warning. I'm going to talk about a pet death, so just to let you know ahead of time. In my last video, I showed Nellie and she was doing really well. Like, that was, most of that video was on a Sunday that I filmed because that was the day we were having that big snowstorm. And she was walking around in the snow fine by herself. And then on Monday, I feel like she had another stroke. She suddenly could not use her back legs at all unless I held her up with a sling. And she stopped eating again. And she would drink, but very, very small. It was like we went right back to the very beginning of her Lyme disease diagnosis, and she is on many meds for that, but she had other complications going on besides just Lyme disease. So I waited because before she rallied, and I waited and gave her meds, but it got to the point where I couldn't take her outside because she's too heavy, and I would get her back end up, but she couldn't maintain that even with me holding her in the sling, and she would just spin in a circle, and then she would fall to the ground and stiffen. So I wanted to try to find a vet that would come to the home because she's not a fan of the vet. Plus, I knew it would be difficult for me to get her there. And the one vet that we found that would come to our area, it would have cost me over $1,100. And that's a lot. So I called her vet. And she's like, bring her in, we'll do a quality of life evaluation and chat. So I knew when I made that call what it was going to be. I knew taking her there what it was going to be. I was prepared for that because I just couldn't watch her suffer anymore. And so we went to the vet, and it was peaceful. I felt bad. I just felt really bad about everything. It's been really sad, and it's been really heavy, and it just hasn't been a great start to the year. First with our cat. Molly passed away 2 days after Christmas, or 3 days, and now Nellie, she's 13. It's just been hard. So we are getting out. I have sat around the house long enough to gain some weight, so I need to start walking. So we walked yesterday and it felt great. So that is what we are doing today. Right, Hattie? How are you doing? Are we going for a walk? Yes? Yes? We had a little scare yesterday. I'll talk about that as we walk around. Yesterday we were walking And we did not see that, and she fell into that grate, and her legs got stuck, and she pulled them out so fast I did not have time to react. But if she had pulled them out the wrong way, that would have been really awful. She would have broke both of her front paws. So now I'm very aware of where the grates are around here. Because they're covered in snow. We didn't see it yesterday. Okay, so we did a mile and now we're headed home. And I will chat a little about what I read in January, although it's going to be super short and sweet, that part, because I've already talked about those books like ad nauseum. So I'm just going to really quick tell you what they are. But it felt good to get out today. It's 21 and I like to go walking where I walk because there's many offices and there's always people, so it's not isolated, but there's never any other dogs, which is great. And if we wanted to, we could go down into this park, but I generally like to take people with me if I'm going to be like in a woodsy, parkish kind of area. So, but anyway, it has been strange just having Hattie here. People keep asking how Hattie is doing, and Hattie, she's just not a dog's dog. She doesn't really care about other dogs. I don't know if that's part of her breed. She's a mini Aussie Border Collie mix, and I don't know if that's typical. I know even when we had her in puppy training classes, she didn't really care too much about the other dogs except to bark at them. But she was not a buddy. She's not like a dog that cuddles up to other dogs. She and Nellie were sisterly, I suppose, in some ways, but they fought over bones. But that's about it. I don't know what she would do with another dog in the house as far as introducing her to a new dog. She has gone walking with friends who have dogs, and she really doesn't want anything to do with them. She gets kind of snarly when they want to get in her face and play. So I don't know how well that would work out. So for right now, I have a feeling she's going to become like Velcro. We do a lot together, but I'm not going to make the mistake of not leaving her home alone because I don't want her to get, stressed out when I leave. And luckily, she has plenty of cats at home to chase around. So I'm going to head home and I'll see you there. So let's take a look at what I read for January. So if you watched this video, I'll link it here. I talked about what I wanted my goals for reading to be. And I decided that instead of reading 5 or 6 books a month, I would shoot for 2 to 3. I did make a 2026 bingo board. And so I did this in lieu of a word of the year or resolutions. I just thought of things that I wanted to accomplish this year. And for reading, I have read 36 books. So I thought that I could do 3 books a month. Some of the other things that I have here is join a hiking club, do 1 adventure challenge a month. I did not do one in January, so I need to really focus on February. So I'll need to do 2 in order to get caught up. Go on 2 overnighters alone. I wanted to do a girls trip with my friends, attend a widow support group in real life event, you know, just some of the goals that I have. And I loved making this because it's in my face. Like, I hang it up on my wall and it's very specific. Like, oh, I can work toward that. And I wanted something that wasn't going to be really ruined if I didn't do it every month, I guess. Like the books. So if I don't read 3 books one month, but maybe I read 4 books one month, you know, it would still even out to 36 books a year. So my goal was to read about 3 books a month, and that is exactly what I did. I am not going to go over and over the books that I read because I've already talked about them. I read Sweeney Sisters. I read The Enchanted Life of Adam Hope, and I read Freewater. And I talk about them in this video. So go check it out. For the month of February, what am I wanting to read? So the first thing that I want to read is I want to read a book for Suey's Classic 6 Challenge, where you read 6 classic books in the year. I have borrowed from the library Wuthering Heights. There's a lot of hype around Wuthering Heights. It's kind of nice to see. Wuthering Heights was a favorite of mine in high school, and I have not read it since. So I'm going to revisit it, and I really, really hope that I like it as much as I remember liking it. So that's one book, and that's for that challenge. I am going to read another Newbery, and I wanted to share the 3 books that I have been thinking of getting from the library. Hopefully the library will have one of them. So the first book that I'm thinking that I'm going to try to find is Dead End in Norvelt. It's written by Jack Gantos. It is the story of a young boy in the summer of 1962 who decides he's going to fire his dad's prized possession, a Japanese sniper rifle, at the movie theater. And he thought it was unloaded, and it is not unloaded. It was loaded. And as a punishment, his mother is making him help an elderly woman in the city. She's an obituary writer, and Jack has to type the obituaries. Now, she's kind of like a sleuth, and it says here that she's also the town's medical examiner, and she's a former nurse. And she notices that many of the original elderly people who started this utopian community are dying off mysteriously. And then Hell's Angels come into play. They ride into town, and one of them gets hit by a cement truck. And this ends up causing the rest of the Hell's Angel gang to cause mayhem in the town, lighting unoccupied houses on fire and stealing the most expensive casket from Mr. Huffer's funeral parlor for their fallen brother. And it goes on with them trying to figure out the mystery behind why all of these people are dying. So there's that. It sounds kind of unique and interesting. So Jack Gantos is a favorite author of mine. My class always loved his Joey Pigza series. And he writes about a boy named Joey Pigza who has ADHD. There's undertones of alcoholism and being left behind by like a deadbeat dad. But at the core of it is this kid trying to come to terms with his ADHD and how he can handle himself and make friends and deal with all of these issues that he has. And my kids really, really related to this series. They really love Joey Pigza Swallowed the Key. So if you have like a 3rd or 4th grader, especially one who has ADHD, because I mean, this book really rang true for a lot of the kids in my class who have ADHD, and they were like, "Oh, I know how he feels." It was a really cute series. So Joey Pigza, Pigza. I'll link the books down below. That's Jack Gantos. Dead End at Norvelt is the book that I'm going to be looking for. Okay, the next book that I'm going to be looking for is a book called The First State of Being by Erin and Entrada Kelly. It is the 2025 Newbery winner. This is her 2nd Newbery win. And this is a book about a boy named Michael Rosario who is very worried about the looming Y2K crisis. And if you have been around in the year 1999, you will know that, we were a little worried about what was going to happen when New Year's Eve 2000 came around. And, well, New Year's Day 2000, it was just such a time, 1999 going into 2000 just seemed like science fiction in and of itself. So Michael is very immersed in this, and while this is all happening, he meets a time-traveling teenager named Ridge Sabio. Now, I'm not sure where in the future he is from, but he's from the future, and he's very interested in what life is like in 1999. And through it all, Michael learns the importance of living in the present and forming connections with others. And look at how cute Huckleberry is. This is a science fiction book, and I generally don't like science fiction, but I have found that the genres that I don't enjoy in adult literature, I do enjoy in middle grade fiction. So I tend to like middle grade fantasy and middle grade science fiction. And I love middle grade dystopian books. So we're going to try to find this one, The First State of Being. Okay, and so the last book that I'm going to be looking for, I am really hoping that out of 3 books that I'm focusing on finding, I'll be able to find one. This book sounds intriguing to me. I am going to look at the synopsis that I have here on my screen. It is called Crisscross. It is the 2005 Newbery Award winner. It's a middle grade novel by Lynne Ray Perkins. And it's set in the fictional town of Seldom in the 1970s, which, I was a middle schooler in the 1970s, so I like to read books from that time period. It's very sentimental, but it's called Crisscross because the whole idea is how people's lives crisscross with each other. And so the main protagonist is a girl named Debbie, and it's her coming of age experience in the summer that she turns 14. And the title refers to how people's lives crisscross through chance meetings and friendship. And this happens when Debbie's neighbor's grandson, Peter, comes to visit, and she develops feelings for him, and she wonders if he's the good thing she's been waiting for. And the themes they are talking about, kind of existential themes, are journey towards self-discovery, search for meaning and understanding, and the importance of friendship and connection. So I guess Crisscross is a continuation of Debbie's story from her 1999 book, All Alone in the Night. I have not read that. This book sounds like it's a good standalone, and I would assume it is because it won the Newbery Award. So those are the 3 books that I am looking for my own challenge, which is reading one Newbery winner per month. Last month, it was Freewater. This is a possibility for Ellen's Book Diversity Bingo. In order to get bingo, you need to read a book from every continent. And so this one may be the one for Europe. Good old Philippa Gregory. This is The Lady of the Rivers. I really enjoyed the other Boleyn girl. Some of her books I love, some of them I don't. This one is the story of Jaquetta, the Duchess of Bedford, a woman who navigated a treacherous path through the battle lines in the Wars of the Roses. So she is married to the Duke of Bedford, the English regent of France. He introduces her to a mysterious world of learning and alchemy. Her only friend in the great household is the Duke's squire, Richard Woodville, who is at her side when the Duke's death leaves her a wealthy young widow. So then the two become lovers and they marry in secret, returning to England to serve at the court of young King Henry VI, where Jaquetta becomes a close and loyal friend to the new queen. So, I may read this one. It's, they're usually, you know, they're just fun. They're just fun. And I find myself going through and like looking up the facts to compare with what she has written in here. But I do generally enjoy her books. So I think this one might be my one for Europe. So that is what I am reading or hoping to read in February. A classic, a Newbery, and a Book Diversity Bingo book. And I think that's probably what I'm going to be thinking about as I'm reading for the next year. 3 books. I am reading The Breakaway right now by Jennifer Weiner, and that is my bathtub book. I read it when I go in there every night to take a nice long hot soak. And another thing I wanted to share is that this is abrupt change, but I do have a new big screen and a new mini PC. It's only this big. It's wonderful to do my work, but I am finding because I'm working at home more, I am sitting a lot more and my back is hurting a lot more. So I got this great back massager. You put your arms in it like this and you actually like throw it over, and then by holding on to this, you can put it wherever it is you want it, and it's really, really nice. And so it does have, it has heat, it has shiatsu, massage. I highly recommend this. It really has made a difference in my back, because my back was really hurting. All right. That's all for now. I'm going to go to work, and then I will talk a little bit about personal curriculum. Look at what in my yard. Oh my goodness. That is the sweetest deer ever. Look at it. They never come so close to the house. I think they're looking for the cat food. Look at the cat. It's like, what is going on? Oh my gosh, so pretty. Oh, it's eating the apples. There's some old apples out there. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about personal curriculum. So I will link the video below, but Suey and MariAndrea did a video together talking about a personal curriculum. And it's pretty much all the rage right now. It's basically where you make your own curriculum for something you want to learn. It's like a big deep dive into a topic or an activity that you have an interest in. And I think it's interesting because in my past, when I have done what would now be considered like personal curriculum, I did it as a child, and I just became intensely interested in a subject. And then I just got magazines and books because there was no going online to do any research. So, you know, I had to rely on what books I had at the library. So I remember getting an intense interest in ornithology. I really thought that I wanted to be an ornithologist for a few months. I got books out about birds. I studied about birds. In much shorter time period, I was interested in space. I have absolutely no interest in that anymore. So it's kind of interesting that I even considered that interesting. I loved Judy Garland, and I got all the books I could ever read about Judy Garland's life, watched her movies. I really was into miniatures. As you know, I still have a dollhouse. I read every book I could. Now, there were not very many books in the library about dollhouses. I lived in a suburb. That library had nothing. So I would go into Erie, and I had a much larger library, but there was always the same 2 or 3 books, and I would just get them on a rotating basis. I did subscribe to a couple miniature magazines when I got old enough to make my own money. I started working in 8th grade, and I bought like Miniature World, I think it was called, but I would also buy it like on the newsstands. I was also in high school extremely interested in the Warsaw Ghetto and the Holocaust, and I read everything I could about them. And I was obsessed with local history, and I read anything I could find about the local history of where I lived. And I actually wrote like a chapter book in 8th grade, and the setting was my town, but like 1910. And I knew what the town looked like, backwards and forwards. You know, I could picture it in my head. Those deep dives and those interests I didn't stop and think about it. I just suddenly became interested in it. And when I was thinking now about personal curriculum, I find that I'm having a really difficult time. And it kind of makes me sad because I'm thinking to myself, what do I want to learn about? Like, what pops into my head that I really want to read about and learn about? And I'm really having a hard time thinking of something. Right off the top of my head, they're more activity focused than book learning focused. I want to get better at crochet. I was thinking of maybe deep diving into more photography on my iPhone. How to use my iPhone to take better photos, because I do love photography. I take a lot of pictures. And just to give you an idea, I went to my Facebook page because I haven't been on social media as much, and I went to the photos because most of my pictures are arranged in albums, and I really need to get them off of there. I have 16,000 uploads of photos on Facebook. I love taking pictures. I love looking at pictures. Other people might be like, oh, come on over and look at my vacation photos. And people are like, oh. And I'm like, ooh, yeah. I would love to look at your family history pictures. Like, bring out the albums. I love them. So I was thinking of that. And I'm thinking, what else? Like, what else do I really, truly want to learn about? Now, recently, as an adult, I did a lot of learning about adoption years ago, but that was one. Especially adopting older children. That was a huge deep dive for me. Gardening and planting, physical fitness. Those are all things that I have, but they've always been things that occurred naturally and organically. I didn't sit down and think about it. So now, while I'm thinking about it, I'm having a hard time. Like, nothing is just popping into my head. And I was wondering, those of you who have chosen a personal curriculum, how did you go about choosing yours? And what is it? Now, I know that I believe MariAndrea has a Discord and Suey has a story graph, I think a story graph, about their personal curriculums and what books they're reading. So I'm really trying to be thoughtful about it and not pick something just to pick something. But I think that I'm leaning toward photography and getting better with my iPhone, because the whole idea of deep diving into a specific topic and like figuring out your own curriculum is giving yourself a project at the end. And I think the best project would be like a portfolio of pictures. So I think that is what I am going to do. I've talked myself into photography with my iPhone. I do have an old digital camera, but I believe that my phone takes better pictures than that camera does. So I always have my phone with me. So I'm going to focus on how to take better pictures with my iPhone. And I will practice. And I will share in my community, like on posts. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. And on that note, I think I am going to wrap up this little bit of February wrap up. I'm going to wrap up the wrap up. So we did, what did I read in January? My February TBR, a little update on what's going on around here, and what I'm going to do for my personal curriculum. And I would love to hear yours. Comment down below, and I will see you on the next video. Happy reading.